I just thought that I would talk a little bit about how I use some of the applique techniques to actually work on a beast piece. Well, I would just show you initially. The first thing I use the ragged applique for a lot of times is simply to extend what I've already done. And the first thing I usually do is I did base this one to a larger background just because I could see that I was going to need some more space. It's crooked and all that. And the first thing I do is actually extend with a pen the lines of the patchwork, all of them actually, even though I may not use all of them. Because again, I do like to pay attention to the seam as a theme for this type of technique. And I've cut some pieces here, and what I'll start doing now, this is just an example of the simple ragged applique. I place the piece, I'm using a similar fabric here, I could use something slightly different, but I try to merge it a little bit. I place the piece so that it fits nicely, and I actually decided I was going to need work with two here. I'm not going to use this line, but I am going to place this piece here so it continues this line. And what I would do is exactly that simple technique of just using an invisible base all the way across here to tack these down. Now there's additional quilting that could be done later here, but this is just how I use the technique. And then I'm going to extend this blue area by simply using this line here. And let me say, it's very important with this technique to overlap your edges. If you do that, and you invisible baste and then quilt, everything will really stay in place, and you don't really have to worry about it falling apart in any way whatsoever. You can even machine wash it. And then the last piece, I'm just going to use this line, even though you can't see it. So you get the idea. Even though I'm patching and everything, I'm still sort of following my original seaming layout. And I'll pin those in place for now. So this is just your simple ragged applique. And I have used that along the edge here, but I've also used the turned applique, that simple fold and turn along this end, and I've also used it here, but I've left the rest of the edges ragged. And that's one thing I like to talk about a little bit, is that you can combine these techniques. I'm going to do that same thing over here to extend this edge. And I'm going to put a piece over here. Again, it's slightly overlapped. And then one other thing I'd like to mention is the fake seam. And you can do that by simply folding a piece of fabric, stitching it. I've done it on the machine, or you can do it by hand. And what that gives you is a seam, a nice line that you might be able to use. And you can come back and clip that, just like a quick clip, and you can fold that out and finger press it like that. And the reason I've done this is I just wanted to have the line in here that I could match up to this line here. What I'm doing is actually kind of playing with the piecing idea. And as a matter of fact, I think I'm actually even going to fold this one. Of course, I would baste this first, but I'm just showing you. So your applique can actually become a patchwork, or your patchwork can actually become an applique. And what you're doing is you're using your lines, and you're really mixing it up. Now you've got a seam here which isn't really a patchwork seam, but everything starts to look like it's part of the piecing. Now, why am I doing this? Because I just really like the effect of it. You're still working with the patchwork idea, but you're actually using applique to achieve that. And you might want to play with what shows and what doesn't. And then you also might want to use that fold technique. Again, you'll place an element against a seam and use your turned applique here, and then leave the rest of it here where you could actually use maybe the halo effect by clipping. That wing might look nice with that effect. And then your regular turn applique, I started one of those faces on one of those samplers, and I thought I would just place it with this line along the seam here, and I'll actually do my regular turned applique here. And for the face, I mean, I had thought about this lizard fabric here, maybe cutting that and putting it, but I think I'm going to save that and actually do the face in a total stitched effect, which I'll be talking about later. Now you can just, when you're done, you can just sort of trim that out and you'll have your base to work on.